Okay, hello again. In this video we're going to look at basic behaviour scripts. So just introducing scripts, nothing too heavy, just a simple script that's going to allow this here to move by using the keys on our keyboard. I think this would be a nice way to introduce behaviour scripts in general. I think it's always nice to make something move on screen. I've changed the setup a little bit. I've made the ship completely central to 0. Okay, I've rotated it 90 degrees from the original way it was imported. I've also moved the camera as well. We'll get the camera, main camera. So it's now in, if you look at there, it's looking at it from behind. So back into top view, and it's just slightly higher. So as you can see, it's at 0, so it's bang down the middle. But on Y it's slightly higher, so it's looking down at this a little bit, and on Z as well it's ever so slightly back, so it's just far enough that it's not miles away from it. That's kind of all there is to it. I'm keeping it in perspective. I'd like to be one of those sort of those games when you shoot into a bit like Star Fox, I suppose. I'm trying to find something complicated to say. No, just Star Fox. That's kind of what the aim is. For it to look a little bit like that, or the gummy bear ship things from Kingdom Hearts. Okay, so to get to scripts, we've got to go down here. We're going to do a little bit of cleaning up first. So we can right click and create a new folder. And let's call this one Models. By the way, if you ever need to change the title of anything, just tap it once and you can change that. And we're going to drag the model into our models folder, so that's all nice and neat. Let's create another one called scripts and create that, and in the scripts one we're going to double click to go in, and we'll create a new script, and you've got the choice JavaScript, C#, Boost script. You create shaders and computer shader scripts as well. We're going to create a JavaScript, and it creates one there, and we're going to call this one ship underscore move. Okay, so this is obviously just for the purpose of this demonstration. That creates that. It gives you always a little view of what the script actually is, which I really like about Unity. So you can actually see the script there. You can't edit it. It's purely, to view, read only in the inspector. But the way you look at a script is you do that through something called MonoDevelop, which is a scripting system within Unity. It's built in, it's Unity's version, and it works really well. I really like MonoDevelop. There's third-party ones that you can use as well. There's quite a few out there. If you Google them, you'll find them. But to be honest, your beginner MonoDevelop is perfect. I haven't had any problems with it. I think it's great. So let's open this up. You can either do it by opening there, or alternatively just double click on the script. Takes a second, and here it is. MonoDevelop. Very straightforward. Don't know why it's minimized Unity. It wasn't entirely necessary. It starts with ProgmaScript. You don't necessarily need that there, but I'd keep it there for Java files just because there it is. Start. Function start. These are functions where you put script within here that you want to start when the game starts, and it should only read it once. So if you've got any Flash knowledge, then this is kind of like putting on clip event load. This is the same sort of thing. If you want something to repeat itself every frame, then like on clip event enter frame, for example with ActionScript, then this is the one to look at, because this will do that in every update. You can do this with other functions as well, where it repeats itself every second, or every half second, or every 0.1 seconds. You can do it with however many you want. This is obviously if you want to do stuff in a particular order, trigger functions, you can do that by invoking, which is something I'll show you at a much later point before I start confusing you. But yeah, I mean, in this little tutorial that we're doing here, we're only going to work within function update because we just want to check the state of something. We want to check if the key is down, and if the key is down, it's going to move this here. That's all there is to it. So within here, function update, we're going to create what is called an if statement. Okay, so if this is down, okay, if a key is down, then you're going to do something else. That's what an if statement is. It's testing to see if something is happening. Okay, so the way we do this is by first typing if, and then open bracket, and then within this we put what we're testing for. So in this case, we're looking for an input, and bear in mind, you don't know the syntax yet. Okay, so don't worry about that. Syntax, by the way, is the language. That's what slowly you'll get used to as I go through. So I'm only expecting you to copy this. I'm only expecting you to just understand it. That's all I'm expecting you to understand. There's a lot of script to learn, but you'll get to it as you go. And as I said before, and I'll show you in a minute, the help with Unity is absolutely fantastic, and I'll show you that in Unity API reference because it's absolutely cracking. So if we want to make something, if we want to make it do something, we're going to have to give some input. So this is where I'm going to show you the API. It's very useful. Oh, okay, if it does this to you, right, which I've noticed it's done that on quite a few of the newer ones, the newer updates of it, then we can also search for it. Kind of annoying. Normally this should take you straight to it. So over to Chrome, and in Google, I'll just type it in, shouldn't I? Unity reference. If you type that in, here it is here. Unity scripting reference right at the top. And this is the API. So by pressing help and Unity API reference, it should achieve the same thing. It might not, as I said, it might come up with this stupid error. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But you should get this. Now what this is great for, okay, is it covers all the scripts. So even if you're working in C#, all the references there. But as I said, we're going to work in JavaScript to start with. Eventually I'll do tutorials that are based around C# and transitioning over. But really, JavaScript is fantastically easy. I don't know why you, unless of course you're doing Xbox Live stuff, I don't know why you want to use C#. But I guess it is more of a mainstream language, and it is recognised by the industry, you know, more, I suppose, more fondly. So it's probably one to learn eventually. So if we want to find out how to make a keyboard key perform an action, first thing we can put in is input. I mean, that's kind of the first straightforward one. Input, or even keyboard might do it. Let's have a look at keyboard, see what comes up. Keyboard. Okay, so there's quite a lot here. Event type key up, event type key down. This stuff looks promising. Key code. Okay, so this is all the key codes. That kind of sort of along the lines of what we need. Key. Yeah. This is sort of what we're looking for. And let's be a bit more specific. So we're looking to input a key code. Input. And here we go. Interface into the input system. Input. Okay. So this allows us to input in a certain way. And as you can see down here, it gives us the list of options for it. So function-wise, this is what we really need to be looking at. Right, we've got a load here, depending on what you're trying to do. This is more for joystick-based stuff. What we're looking for, though, is get a key. Right, so returns true while the user holds down the key identified by name. Think auto-fire. Okay, so if we were holding space down, it would shoot continuously. And we want this to move as long as we've got the key down. Right, so by getting any key down, that will probably only repeat it once. So get key is probably more suitable. So if we press that, it very handily gives us an example of what we need to do. and I think this is absolutely fantastic. There's two ways of doing it. In fact, it's got an easier way, the typical stuff, like you can see that it just says down. This is another thing I love about MonoDevelop. Not only is it easy in layout, it's also easy in script. Basically it's took a lot of shortcuts, it's made it a lot easier. So let's take that here and let's type it in, and I stress, do not copy and paste. I will be watching very carefully if it's in class and you are watching this video and slightly cheating. If you're at home, you can do what you like, but I recommend that you get used to the syntax, and the only way you can get used to that is by typing it in manually. But if you've managed to use this, then good on you. That's going to help you an awful lot. So input dot get key, and notice that when you're typing it, things will come up. So if you're halfway through and you find the one you want, then just press enter, and that'll do that. Open brackets, and we've got a choice here. I mean, we can do it down, for example, so that, and if we want it to be down, then we do that, and it will recognise that fine. Alternatively, we could always do a key code, which I'll show you there, as it shows down here. Key code dot, and then you've got the choice of all the key codes that are within Unity. There we go, and you can add custom ones as well. That's fine, but that's for another day. But there's an awful lot of them. It obviously covers everything on the keyboard, and yeah, you can search through and find what you're looking for. So in this case, what we're looking for really is, I suppose, left arrow. There we go. That one will do. I started with right. I realise that now, but left arrow. Close the bracket. Close the bracket. Because every time we open a bracket, we've got to close it. Right? You might see it highlights it. In fact, right here, it highlights. If I go to this one, it's highlighted it. And if I go to this one, at the end, it's highlighted that one there. So it demonstrates that it's closed. The other thing that we have to do, okay, is that whenever you have an if statement, you have to give it a parentheses, and that's what this is here. This is a parentheses. I'm going to point something out. Now on this, I've noticed that it doesn't actually have it. Oops, it doesn't actually have it. But as a matter of good practice, include it in the end. I mean, a lot of people, for good practice, will put it on the following line, like so. And what this just means is that it's opened that statement. Okay, so it said anything after this here is going to be affected by this. Okay, because we might have a lot of functions, a lot of if statements, sorry, within this function update. So we need to make sure that it knows that anything that happens after this is related to this. And then what we'll do is just like how this one here, okay, so if I select that, it closes that one. This one right here, okay, we'll create another one afterwards that will close it off. And it's probably actually worth it just doing that now. If we put that there, you can see that that one's now for that one, and that one there is for that one, and that just means it's completely closed. So wherever you've opened one, you will always have to close it afterwards to say that that's the end. So in this bit here, now we can tell it what to do, because we said if this left key is down, okay, this left arrow key, then it's going to do something, but at the moment it does nothing. Now on here it says print, which just means that it demonstrates that the key has been held down. So as a matter of practice, good practice, let's do that first. So print, okay, and speech mark, and we'll put in keys down. Key, more specifically, left key is down. Key is down. Okay, close that, and then semicolon, very similar to the parentheses one. Semicolon is important, and semicolon just means that that is the end of that action. And some scripting languages, like ActionScript, are not so bothered about it if you don't put it in. Java, on the other hand, and then C#, very picky. If it's not there, it won't work. So make sure it is there, or at least complain about it anyway. Once that's done, okay, we can actually now test the script out. The way we do that is first we've got to build it. So build Unity. Takes a couple of seconds. It might come up with an error. Don't worry about that. Sometimes this happens. It's all to do with the settings in here. If it doesn't, it'll say build successful. Okay, so just tap there. If it does do it, and it will still say build successful. We go back to Unity. Right, so you can see that that script's now updated in here. What we can do now is drag that script onto our ship. And you can see on the ship, it's now got ship move script attached to it. So it should be a case that if we go and press play, right, and we press the left arrow, there we go. Left key is down. And as long as I'm holding it, you'll see that these numbers here keep going higher and higher and higher. That's because I've got collapse selected. If I take that off, you can see that in real time as it does it. There we go. Let's collapse again. Keeps it all nice and neat. So that's all working. We know it's doing something. Let's stop that and let's go back to our script. So we know that works. In the next line down, let's actually make the ship move. Now each ship is a transform. Okay, that's how you relate to it. If we want it to move, we're going to have to talk to the transform component. Okay, so essentially when we're scripting, we do talk to other components to tell them to do things. So the first thing we have to reference is we want it to move, so we know it's going to be on transform. So transform. Now that's kind of crucial, because if we go back to here, right, and we put in transform, okay, we can see it right here, transform. We've got a lot of settings. Okay, we've got translate. Oof, there's just loads, isn't there? Look at, rotate. It's kind of hard to find what you're entirely looking at. But the position of the transform in world space, that one is the one we probably need to look at. Position. And here we go, move the object to. So we could snap the object to a certain position. So we use this to move it. In this case, we're not going to quite do that. This doesn't entirely help us too much. If we go back one, translate would, because you can see that it moves the transform in a direction and distance of translation. This one would, but this gets a little bit more complicated, and you know, and in this case, I don't think it's gonna really help explain it so well. So I'm gonna give that one a little bit of a miss, and I'll show you the way that I would do it in this case. So if we go dot, and it is position, because we're referring to this right here, position. Okay, the next thing, press dot, and we tell it what axis we want it to move on. So, for example, it's got X, Y, Z. We know it's gonna, if it's left, we know it's moving on X-axis. We can see that here. It's gonna go left. Right. So if let's choose X. I hope I'm not wrong on that now. I'm sure I'm not. I hope I might be wrong now. Kick myself afterwards. It doesn't matter anyway. We can change things. So transform.position.x, and then the next thing we've got to do is we've got to tell it what direction to go in. Now you have to kind of think of this like a grid. Okay, I don't know if we go into I suppose yes, yeah, here we go. That's great. It's come up straight away. What I was kind of looking for. See if it's, here we go, this is much better. So this is the way it kind of works it out. Obviously we've got the x-axis and we've got the y-axis. The y-axis, bear in mind, is not the y-axis in this. The y-axis is the z-axis, the y-axis is vertical. This is quite confusing, but this is the way Unity works. It's slightly different. So it'd be better to presume, it'd be better to scratch that out in your head and replace that with Z. So Z-axis instead. But this is kind of the way it works. So if we want it to go left, we want it to be in the minus. Currently it's sitting at 0. And we want it to go in a minus direction. So if we go in here, we go minus, and then equals, okay, because we want to do something. This is where we can set the speed now. We can set how much it jumps. So obviously, if we did it by 1, then it would, every frame, it would go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and move along like that. We could be a little more broad than that, I think. I think if we said 10, it might be a little more reasonable. Maybe it's still a bit slow. So that's going to now jump 10 each and every time this updates. Right, so I think it's every second, exactly. I think it's not every frame. I've been saying that, but I think updates every second. So semicolon on the end, and that should now make it move in a minus direction. It might be a little erratic, I'm not sure, we'll have to see. So we build it, it comes up with a silly error. Press it again, build successful. Back into the game, that will have updated now on the script. See that, it's updated. Press play. And now if we press left, ooh, there we go. So it's jumped out. As I said, it's a little bit erratic. It's kind of sped off. There's ways we can control that. One way to do it is by using time delta. And I know that off the top of my head, but if I go to it in here to demonstrate it, time, delta time, there it is. Okay, so this kind of paces it. Okay, so it makes it sort of move just 10 per second instead of repeatedly doing it. So basically what it's done there is it's done, if it's working at 30 frames per second, okay, it is working in frames in that case, but it's jumped 30 instead of 10, and we only want it to move 10 in a second, and this basically forces it to do that. So what we can do is you can see time.delta time times by the speed number. What we can do instead is use that, go times time dot delta time, and what that will do now is that will prevent it from speeding off into the distance, or at least it should. So semicolon on the end. It might even be too slow now, we might have to speed it up, but we'll see. Yeah, now it's a little bit too slow, so we can go and we can increase the speed in the script, so we could make it 100 maybe. But what's also important to point out is that later on you'll be able to do this in the editor itself. I'll demonstrate variables to you. This is something I'm going to go into a little bit more in the coming video actually, variables, because that's kind of what starts making scripting a little easier to use. So there's still more to come on this. We'll be looking more and more at this. This should now, though, in the meantime, we should now speed it up. There we go. So we've got left, that's all sorted. Now the next step is, as I said, this ends this if statement here. As long as this is here, anything past this, so I could put anything in there, it won't be affected by if. So if left key is down, anything outside that won't be affected by left key. So it means now what we can do is do a second if statement, and I'm going to type it, and it's the habit you should get into just to help you learn it, instead of copy and pasting. It's the lazy student attitude, that would be. Key code, okay, and in this one we'll do dot right arrow, okay, and then open parentheses. So the same thing again. Obviously if we wanted to do print again, you can do that. It's not entirely necessary, but we will. Right key is down. Okay, and that's it. In fact, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm going to test you a little bit. I'm going to let you work that one out. You're not stupid, I'm sure, so it'll be all good. Let's do up in this case. Up key is down. Okay, and in this one, instead, okay, so we're going to have transform dot position dot. And remember, right? Okay, so if we wanted it to move forwards, right, it would be. Let's go back to here. We can see that it'd be normally it should be Z, but because we want it to move vertically, it's the y-axis. So that's what we're going to be using. And when we press up, we want it to move upwards. So I guess it'd be safe to say that this is y, but looking at it from a back point of view. So I guess, yeah, this is strangely, this is still relevant, really, in this case. So instead of dot x, like we have here, we're now going to be putting dot y. And because we're moving in a positive direction, because we're pushing it up, instead of minus, we want it to add to it, equals, same again, 100 times time dot delta time, semicolon at the end. Build that. Oh, problem. What did I forget? Of course, parentheses. Glad I did that. See, even I forget. Pop that in there. That's closed it off. But it's good that you see the errors down there. They'll tell you things. Read them carefully. They help you. In fact, I'm going to delete that 1 second just to show you that a bit more. Notice as well, it tells you what line the problem's on. Expecting, parentheses, found, nothing. That's what that is. Okay. So, let's add that back in. Show that. There we go. Should be all good. Let's try it out. Up, left. Done. So, I guess your challenge is, and this is an easy challenge, you find this easy now, just to do the right one and the minus one, the right one, sorry, and the down one, the down arrow. If you do those two, then that's it for this part, and you've done well. So we'll move on to the next bit of scripting, a little bit down the line, and we'll look at variables, because that's the next big step. Okay, so that's if statements, and that's basic behaviour scripts. So yeah.